To the world, he's the golden boy of Hollywood, the Sundance Kid, an enduring icon of American cinema. For decades, Robert Redford has embodied a life of seemingly effortless success and charm. We see the ruggedly handsome face, the confident smile, and the piercing blue eyes that have captivated audiences for generations. We see the Oscar-winning director and the visionary founder of the Sundance Institute, a man who has left an indelible mark on film. His legacy is one of iconic roles, from the charismatic outlaw in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, to the determined journalist in All the President's Men. He is, for many, a symbol of American masculinity, independence, and artistic integrity. But what if the story you know is only half the truth? What if, behind the celebrated career, lies a quiet, lifelong battle with unimaginable sorrow? This is the story of the heartbreaking tragedies that have defined Robert Redford's life, and the profound losses that have cast a long shadow over his legacy. It's a story that reveals the immense personal cost that can accompany a life. In the public eye, the story of a father who has faced the one thing no parent should ever have to endure. Not once, but twice. Beneath the surface, Robert Redford has quietly shouldered a lifetime of unimaginable grief, and the devastating loss of two of his sons has left a tragic mark on his celebrated life. Charles Robert Redford, Jr. was born on August 18, 1936, in Santa Monica, California. But his early life wasn't one of Hollywood glamour. As the son of a milkman turned accountant, he was raised in a working-class neighborhood and was, by his own admission, a restless kid. He wasn't much of a student. He was more drawn to sports and art, finding an outlet for his energy in baseball, which even earned him a scholarship to the University of Colorado. But the structured world of college couldn't hold him. After losing his scholarship, he dropped out and set off on a journey that would take him far from home. It was during this time that he was shaped by a profound loss. When he was just 18, his mother, Martha, passed away from a sudden hemorrhage, a complication from a blood disorder. The loss was devastating for the young Redford, who later said his mother was a major force behind his success. This early brush with mortality seemed to propel him forward, pushing him to live with a fierce sense of urgency. He traveled to Europe, living as a bohemian art student in Paris and Florence, soaking in the culture and honing his artistic sensibilities. It was a period of self-discovery, of finding his voice not on a canvas, but on the stage. When he returned to the United States, he enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York City. It was there, in the bustling, unforgiving world of New York theater, that his career finally began to take shape. He cut his teeth on television, with guest spots on hit shows like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone. His big break came on Broadway in 1963, starring in Neil Simon's smash hit, Barefoot in the Park. The role made him a star. Hollywood came calling, and soon, Redford's face was on the silver screen. The late 60s and 70s cemented his status as a legend. He re-teamed with Jane Fonda for the film version of Barefoot in the Park, and then, in 1969, came the role that would define him for a generation. As the charming outlaw in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, opposite his great friend Paul Newman, Redford became an international superstar. The film was a massive hit, and Redford's charisma was undeniable. He followed this with a string of classics: the rugged mountain man in Jeremiah Johnson, the idealistic politician in The Candidate, and the romantic lead opposite Barbra Streisand in the timeless love story, The Way We Were. He even earned his first Oscar nomination for Best Actor for his role in the 1973 hit, The Sting, which reunited him with Newman. Throughout the 70s, he wasn't just a movie star, he was a cultural force. His role in All the President's Men, 1976, which he also produced, was more than just a film. It was a defining moment in American history, chronicling the Watergate scandal that brought down a presidency. He was at the absolute pinnacle of his profession, a man who seemed to have it all. But Redford was never content to just be an actor. He had a deeper vision. In 1980, he stepped behind the camera for his directorial debut, Ordinary People. The film, a searing drama about a family torn apart by the accidental death of one son and the suicide attempt of the other, was a masterpiece. It won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and a Best Director Oscar for Redford himself. It was a stunning achievement, and one that, looking back, seems tragically personal. At the same time, he was building another legacy far from Hollywood. He had purchased land in Utah, a place that had always been his sanctuary. This land would become the Sundance Institute, a non-profit he founded in 1981 to support independent filmmakers. To the world, Robert Redford's life was a story of unbroken success. Behind the golden facade, a shadow of personal tragedy has followed Robert Redford for most of his life. For all the public triumphs, his private world was shaped by devastating losses that began long before the world knew his name. In 1958, a young, struggling Robert Redford married Lola Van Wagenen. He was just 22, she was 21, and they were embarking on a life together in New York City. A year later, in September 1959, they welcomed their first child, a son named Scott Anthony Redford. They were a young family, just starting out, their future full of promise. Then, the unthinkable happened. On November 17, 1959, just a little over 2 months after he was born, Scott died. He was a healthy baby, and his death was sudden and inexplicable, attributed to sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS. At the time, there was little understanding of SIDS, and for grieving parents, the lack of an explanation often led to intense feelings of guilt and self-blame. Redford has rarely spoken about this loss, a testament to the private way he carries his grief. But in a rare moment of reflection, he touched upon the profound impact of that day. "It was really hard," he admitted. "We were very young. We didn't know anything about it." The loss of a child is an agony that defies words. He spoke of the guilt that haunted him, a feeling that somehow he was responsible. That quiet, gnawing grief became a part of him, a scar that, as he acknowledged, never fully heals. They buried their son in Utah and tried to piece their lives back together, but the loss left an indelible mark. The couple went on to have 3 more children, Shauna, David James, and Amy, but their journey as parents would be marked by more trials. Their second son, known as Jamie, was born 7 weeks premature and immediately faced a fight for his life, with a severe respiratory condition that gave him only a 40% chance of survival. Against the odds, Jamie pulled through, but his health would be a constant source of concern. Jamie grew up with a spirit as vibrant as his father's, but he was plagued by chronic health issues. He developed ulcerative colitis, which eventually led to a rare autoimmune disease that attacked his liver. By his early 30s, his liver was failing. In 1993, Jamie underwent 2 life-saving liver transplants. The experience was grueling. Redford, by then a global superstar, would fly from film sets to be by his son's bedside, a father wrestling with the helplessness of watching his child suffer. This harrowing experience became a turning point for Jamie. He emerged with a renewed sense of purpose and founded the James Redford Institute for Transplant Awareness to educate the public about the critical need for organ donation. Following in his father's footsteps, Jamie became a documentary filmmaker, focusing on social and environmental issues. He and his father co-founded the Redford Center in 2005, a non-profit that produces films aimed at creating positive environmental change. Jamie built a beautiful life, marrying his wife, Kyle, with whom he had 2 children, and becoming a beloved figure in his own right. So when the news came in 2020, it was a shock of unimaginable cruelty. On October 16, 2020, James Redford died at 58 years old. His wife, Kyle, shared that his chronic liver disease had returned, and while he was on the waiting list for another transplant, doctors discovered cancer in his bile ducts. For Robert Redford, then 84, the loss was a devastating, final blow. He had now outlived a second child. His publicist released a statement that could only hint at the depth of his pain. The grief is immeasurable with the loss of a child. Jamie was a loving son, husband and father. His legacy lives on through his children, art, filmmaking and devoted passion to conservation and the environment. The family asked for privacy as they mourned a loss that was simply too profound for public display. This second, crushing loss solidified the tragic narrative that had run parallel to his success for over 60 years. The man who directed Ordinary People had lived its themes in the most heartbreaking way possible. In the face of such repeated tragedy, it would be understandable to retreat or become embittered. But that has never been Robert Redford's way. Instead, his life has become a quiet masterclass in resilience, a testament to the human spirit's capacity to endure the unendurable and transform pain into purpose. The losses he suffered didn't break him. They shaped him. They deepened his empathy and informed his art. You can't help but look at his directorial debut, Ordinary People, and see the heart of a man who understood grief intimately. Released 2 decades after the death of his infant son, Scott, the film dissects the anatomy of a family fractured by the loss of a child. It's a story about how grief can isolate us and the desperate, fumbling attempts to reconnect. Redford's own experience with loss gave him the unique insight needed to tell that story with such devastating honesty. It was as if he poured his own unspoken sorrow into the frame, creating a work that was not just art, but catharsis. This channeling of personal experience became a quiet hallmark of his career. He was always drawn to stories with a strong moral compass and characters who were outsiders, rebels, and idealists. He once said, "Part of me is drawn to the nature of sadness because I think life is sad, and sadness is not something that should be avoided or denied. It's a fact of life." This philosophy is woven through his work. He wasn't afraid of the shadows because he had lived in them. But perhaps his most enduring legacy is the one he built with his own hands in the mountains of Utah. The Sundance Institute is more than just a film festival. It's a sanctuary. It's a place he created to nurture the kind of independent, personal storytelling that Hollywood often ignores. In many ways, Sundance is the ultimate expression of his resilience. It is a place dedicated to creation in the face of a life that has known so much destruction. His family, too, is a testament to this resilience. He instilled in his children a deep love for the arts and a powerful sense of social responsibility. His son James, before his tragic death, embodied this spirit completely. Together, they founded the Redford Center, cementing a shared mission to use film for environmental advocacy. Redford's children, including his filmmaker daughters Shauna and Amy, have all carried on this tradition of artistic expression and activism. Now, approaching 90, Robert Redford lives a much quieter life, preferring the solitude of his Utah ranch to the noise of Hollywood. He has always been a fiercely private man, and in his later years, that desire for privacy has only deepened. He carries his grief with a quiet dignity that asks for no pity and offers no sensational details. His life story is a profound and often heartbreaking paradox. He is the glamorous movie star who found solace in the wilderness. He is the celebrated public figure who fiercely guarded his private sorrow. But through it all, he has endured. He moved forward, not by dismissing the pain but by carrying it, allowing it to inform his art, his activism, and his love for his family. The full measure of his life isn't just in his iconic films or the awards on his shelf. It's in the quiet strength of a father who has buried 2 sons, yet continues to believe in the power of creation. Robert Redford's story is a powerful reminder that behind every public facade lies a human heart, capable of enduring incredible pain. What are your favorite Robert Redford films, and how does knowing his personal story change your perspective on his work? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story meaningful, please consider subscribing for more deep dives into the lives of iconic figures. Robert Redford's life is one of staggering contrasts, the brilliant son of his fame, and the deep, persistent shadows of his personal life. For more than 6 decades, he has been a constant presence in our culture, a symbol of enduring cool and artistic integrity. Yet beneath this polished surface lies a story of almost biblical sorrow, of a man who has faced the ultimate parental heartbreak time and again. The loss of his infant son, Scott, and years later his adult son, James, are tragedies that would have shattered most people. But Robert Redford, with his characteristic stoicism and grace, absorbed these blows and continued to build, create, and inspire. His legacy is therefore twofold. It is the remarkable body of work he has given the world, and it is the profound example of resilience he has lived. He turned his grief into art, his privilege into purpose, and his pain into a quiet, unwavering strength that continues to define him.